Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Kickstarter podcast. Today's episode we have Mike Waywell with us. So as always, I will get the guests to give us their elevator pitch. So Mike, welcome to the show, and do you want to tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I own a gym business in Liverpool called Steel Habitat. That's been my longest serving company. I've been there for 12 years with that. And then the last 5 years, we've been working primarily on a consulting business for gym owners, essentially. So taking a lot of the systems, the processes, the things that I've built for my gym and teaching it to other gym owners, helping them kind of grow their businesses as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what does a typical day in the life look like for you?
These days, as I mentioned to you off camera, we've just had a baby not so long ago. So that starts with looking after the little one. And then the majority of my time really these days is focused on the consulting business. So a lot of that is the lead generation, marketing and sales side of that for that business. And then a big chunk of it on the delivery side, mainly around the creation of like the assets, the systems, the processes, everything, how we actually help the gyms that we work with. And then a small portion of my week is working with the actual gym itself, like Steel Habitat. But I'm largely removed from that business these days. It's not really the thing that I'm spending the majority of my time on, if that makes sense.
Got it. So I think it'd be cool to dig into that. But the one thing that interests me as well is the idea that you went from kind of doing a thing with the gym to
Yeah.
teaching it to other people,
Yeah.
which I think now kind of comes with a lot of people see it as a negative thing. It's almost like, oh, of course you got into teaching others how to do it. And people see it as like a money making thing, which I know it's not. I've done copywriting and then teach copywriting. But what was your process from, was it like, had you always set out to then like help other gym owners, or was it more of an organic thing?
I think with that, it's like probably the same as you've seen with copywriting. It's just like a natural transition in some cases where you go from being passionate about the thing that you're building to then being so involved in building that thing that the business side of it becomes more of the thing that you enjoy. So for me, I kind of had like options of, well, I could keep building more gym businesses, opening more gyms and stuff like that. Or because I spend the large majority of my time talking about business and building systems and process and all that kind of stuff, that's something that I enjoyed more, and we've had success with it. It's like being able to transfer that on and sell that as a service to other gym owners that they can then utilize to grow their businesses. It makes sense, I think. Like, I know what you mean. Like, a lot of people go down the route of like, what's really a negative thing, or they see it as a negative thing to be like a business coach or a mentor or whatever it is. But I think there's nothing wrong with selling something that you have value that other people can take and use for their own businesses, if that makes sense. I think like it's another way for you to continue to grow as an entrepreneur as well. Like, obviously, you sell courses and stuff for copywriting. It's like you don't just have to do the thing. You can teach other people how to do the thing as well. And also, being frank, it's a more scalable thing as well. It's like if I want to open more gyms, you've got the overheads of opening the gym, the capital expenditure to get it started. You've got big teams of coaches, you've got risk around all the, things that are associated with that. Whereas like an online business that's more focused on consulting and software and stuff like that, it's a lot more scalable in a lot of senses. It's lower risk in terms of overheads and stuff like that. And it's just something I enjoy doing more. Like I said to you before, I don't really want to talk about fitness and stuff on the podcast because that's not something I'm particularly interested in anymore. So I'm more interested in the business side of things. Like, I hate when I go to like, you meet new people and they're like, I tell them I own a gym and they'll be like, they talk to me about their diet and their training program. I'm like, like, I know why you're talking to me about that, but the last thing I want to talk about is training and fitness and stuff like that. I'm more interested in business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to be honest, I still get some people who ask me fitness questions because they knew I was a PT. But even on the copywriting side of things, it's like, what are you passionate about? Or what are you more passionate about? So yeah, I'm similar in the fact that I still do a lot of client work because I think if you're teaching it, it's kind of important to stay in the industry as well. But I know a lot of copywriters who just absolutely geek out on copy, and I'm not like that. Like, I enjoy learning stuff, but I'm not super passionate about being a better copywriter. Let's say it's much more my passion lies in kind of helping others, scaling a business, creating semi-passive income streams. So I think that whole journey it's not right for everyone, but as you say, if you want to do that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that if that's where your skill set lies and that's where your passion lies, basically.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, I don't know if this is the perfect analogy for it, but say like Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a popular thing. It's like, are you only allowed to train jiu-jitsu, or can you teach other people how to do jiu-jitsu? If you've got to a certain level, can you teach the people, at levels below you or belts below you, can you teach them? And I think on some of the business side of things, people default to being like, courses are a scam, and no matter how valuable the course or the program or the mentorship or whatever is, it's just a scam from day one. But I think if you're genuinely adding value to people, I don't see why there's anything wrong with that.
Again, it's the people who say, oh, no one needs a mentor, no one needs a course. You're like, no one needs a mentor, no one needs a course. Like, that's 100% true, but you're probably going to get where you want to be faster and easier learning from someone or something that's done it before. And I just find that the people who do that whole, you shouldn't be teaching this, or everything you're teaching can be learned from Google. I think firstly, it can't, but secondly, if that's your mindset, then you're probably not my kind of person anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you're only gonna teach at like things that you've done, I think that makes a lot of sense. So like, I'm never gonna teach someone how to open 10 multi-million-dollar gyms, because I've never done it. But I can teach you to get to a certain level with this level of systems and these client acquisition funnels and stuff like that. Stuff that I've actually done, proven to work, and then I can show you how to do it as well, and it can speed up your path. Because like, I've had the same thing. I'm sure you've had the same thing where you've had mentors or you've bought courses and you like really fast tracked my way through something that I was struggling with, or something that I wanted to learn, something that I wanted to improve on. So yeah, I always hate that like mindset of just like, well, if your gym's doing so well, why don't you open more gyms? Maybe I don't want to open more gyms. Maybe I want to have a more scalable, lower risk, more profit margin kind of business, and I've got a lot of knowledge and value that I can add to people who are earlier on in the journey. So as long as that's like, that transfer of knowledge and value is actually happening, I don't see an issue with it at all, to be honest.
It's also income diversification, as in, talk to most investors. If you said, what's a good piece of general investing advice, they'd probably say, spread your money around, put a bit in the market, buy a bit of crypto, maybe buy some property, buy some gold or precious metals. Very few would go, get absolutely everything you've got and put it on this one thing. And I kind of see it at a certain stage in business. It's like, okay, I could get more copywriting clients, but what if there's an absolutely massive shift in the industry? Or what if for whatever reason something happens and I can't physically write copy anymore? I don't want to have put everything on black, let's say. It's like, it's not a smart choice. So I think having multiple streams of income, actually, maybe not at the start of a business journey, because I think you should be hyper focused on one thing. But when you get to that level, like you said, you go, okay, I need to scale some way, and I can either go bigger on this one thing, or I can branch out something else. So if actually you want to branch out into something else, go for it. It's a smart business decision, in my opinion.
I think it's fine to just do it because you want to do it as well.
Yeah.
I think, for any other justification, it's like, I just wanted to do this, so I just decided to do it. Like, I definitely battled with that in the beginning when we first started thinking about doing the Gymownr business. I was like, I don't want to come across as like the guru-y kind of mentor kind of person, but I think if you just don't lean into that and you just go your own way with it, which is what we've done, then you can do it like quite authentically, for want of a better term, and it's something I just enjoy doing more than I necessarily enjoy running the gym side of it anymore. So that's justification enough on its own for me anyway.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Who's your ideal client for the Gymownr business?
It's generally like the clients that we typically have that we're probably the best at helping is gyms that have got some traction already. So they've got to maybe 30 to 50 members. They're doing, 8-10 grand a month, maybe in that kind of range. Or maybe 5 to 10 grand a month, and they're just stuck. A lot of gyms kind of get to a position where they grow quite quickly initially. A lot of like word of mouth and warm audience and previous clients if they've been a personal trainer and stuff like that. And then they get stuck where they're either maxed out themselves in terms of work-wise, or they're just struggling to get past a certain ceiling in terms of client and revenue number, because they don't have systems in place for bringing in clients, converting them into members. They haven't got their business model set up correctly, all of those kind of things. And we're really good at taking those kind of gyms from like 5 to 10 grand a month up to like 20 to 30 grand a month, depending on the size of the business. So that's kind of like our sweet spot, really. We've definitely had probably 10, 15 gyms who have helped open their gym and go from scratch. And in a lot of ways, they're easier clients because they don't have any of the baggage that, you know, and the bad habits and stuff like that. You can just start the clean slate. But I'd say that's our sweet spot, really, is like if you're stuck at 5 to 10 grand a month, 30 to 40 clients kind of range, and you want to get to 20, 25, 30 grand a month, then we're really good at doing that kind of thing.
And what's the biggest bottleneck for gyms that are at that scale? Is it a sales and leads problem? Is it a retention problem, like scaling up and staffing? Is there anything you see particularly often?
It's usually 3 things. The first one, as you would expect, is client acquisition. So they've probably relied heavily on organic and word of mouth. And it comes a point where their natural level of attrition and cancellations every month, they can't outpace that with the inflow of new clients they're getting from organic and referrals. It just doesn't really happen for them that way. So they need things in place to bring in clients more predictably, which is usually ads on Facebook and Instagram, combined with content and outbound, combined with email nurture sequences and stuff like that. So that's like the main problem, like the leads problem, basically. So fixing that is like the first thing. The second thing quite often is the business model. So we talk about that in terms of 2 things. So we say operational capacity, so the amount of clients that you can service on a monthly basis, and then revenue potential, so how much the gym can actually make. Because obviously with a physical location, you're capped by how many people you can fit in the building and how much they pay every month. And a lot of gyms open they go to a company like Primal or Black Box and they buy whatever kit looks nice on the 3D, you know, CAD drawing and all of that kind of thing. They don't necessarily think about how it's going to work in terms of how many sessions do we need, how many people in each session, what equipment do we need for that, what do we need to charge, and all that kind of stuff. So we speak to a lot of gyms that are like, I want to hit, you know, 25 grand a month. And when you do the maths on it, they can only actually do 10 grand a month. And there's no way physically that they could get past that point. So we go through a process we call it like maximizing your model, where we improve their operational capacity, so the amount of people they can fit in the gym on a monthly basis, and then obviously what they charge by improving the value of the service, so they can increase their revenue potential of the business, if that makes sense. That's usually the next thing, is like, now you know how to get leads and clients and can convert them into members. So how do we then raise the revenue potential of the business without having to move to like a massive facility, without having to coach loads more coaching hours and stuff like that? And then the third thing, which it normally works in this order, is just like a lack of systems, processes, and teams. So just like infrastructure, essentially. The gym owners usually doing 90% of the things themselves. They're making the sales calls, delivering the sessions, cleaning the gym, doing all that kind of stuff. And they need to get some of their time back, either to just not be fucking knackered all the time, or be able to work on some of the things that are going to push the business forwards. And I know a lot of mentors and business coaches and however you want to frame that will try and get you to like remove yourself from the business, and like you need to step away and be hands off and all that. And I think that's a good thing to aim towards, but only so it gives you the freedom of choice, rather than like you having to never coach. Like we never say to a gym owner like you shouldn't be coaching in the gym. So you should be coaching in the gym if you want to, but you want to have the option to do that because you've decided to do that this week, not because if you don't show up today at 6 a.m, nothing operates kind of thing. So you got like the freedom outside of the business then as well.
How do you coach someone to do that? And the reason why I ask is because I think a lot of people like the idea of having the freedom to pick and choose when they work. Yeah. But I think if you've built something, whether it's a fitness business, copywriting business, anything like that, it's like that fear to remove yourself and to kind of let go of a bit of a control can be quite difficult. Is there anything you found particularly useful for helping people get into that mindset of, I don't need to do everything myself?
Yeah. So I would honestly say like there are probably better people who are good at coaching that. We kind of almost not force people into it, but just trying to like get them to do it so they can then realize that everything was fine. Like, so, because that's what happened with me. Like the first time I was sick and couldn't coach at the gym, I had one of our members who was a friend like step in and coach and stuff for me, and I was like, really worried about it. I thought, we're going to have cancellations and all that. And then the Facebook group, which we used to have at the time, was just going off in the evening after the session saying, oh, we don't need Mike back and all that, like joking about it. And I was like a little bit ego wounded, but at the same time I was relieved because you're like, oh, I don't need to do everything myself. So we kind of just try and get people to take those steps where like you're not the only person who can coach a session to, the standard that you need it to. You're not the only person that can make a sales call. And I think our approach to doing that is really good systems and processes and like SOPs and stuff like that. Like I say, there's probably people who are better at coaching people through that process, but we're quite like system and structure orientated. We're like, if you onboard people into the team in this way and you give them this SOP to follow and you hold them accountable like this after you've delegated a task to them, then everything's going to be fine.
Well, I think people sometimes make a big deal out of things in their head that aren't a big deal. Like one of my friends near me, he runs a small group training facility, and he said that they were capped by the fact that they could have 2 classes going at a time, and they limited it to 4 per class. And he had a business mentor who said to him, up it to 6 per class. And he was like, oh, we can't do that. And the mentor was like, why can you not do that? He went, well, we've always done 4. The mentor was like, just give it a go, see how it gets on. Yeah. And he said that they upped it to 6 per class, took on loads of new people. They handled like over 100 clients, said 2 people left because of that. Yeah. But they could then take on 2 people every class, 2 classes run at once, 4 extra people per hour. He was like, don't know why I didn't do it years ago. It was just having to do it. So you say you've not got, you don't coach people into that. But I think actually just getting someone to do it is sometimes the best form of coaching because they go, actually, no one cares about that. It's fine. People are going to do it.
Yeah, that's it. And I think like that's one of the things I was saying about, improving operational capacity, we call it, so the amount of people you can service. A lot of the changes that you can make around that, people feel resistance on it, and it's just because of stuff like that. Like, that's how we've always done it. Or they're worried about, like, oh, if I change this, like, Mary and all her mates are going to be pissed off and leave kind of thing. And you're like, maybe there might be a portion of people that will leave, but the upside of that change is so big that in a lot of ways it's worth losing a few clients over. And the way we always frame it is your clients it's their prerogative to leave as and when they ever decide to. They can hand in their notice period, they can cancel their card and just move on. So it's your prerogative to change things in the business that are best for the business overall. So like one of the things that we always work on with people is a lot of gyms do 60-minute sessions. We say, instead of doing 60-minute sessions, do 45-minute sessions back to back, because in the same coaching hours that you were already doing, you get 33% more capacity. Like without coaching any more hours, without needing any more people on the team, you increase the capacity of the business by 33%. And when you're in a, 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot unit, all of those little changes matter. And then when you pair going from 60 to 45-minute sessions with adding 2 additional people to every session, with increasing the value of the service and doing a £20 monthly price increase over time for current clients and then for new clients as well, you can double, sometimes triple the revenue potential of the gym without more coaches, without working more hours, without doing anything really except just restructuring the model of the business. And people are like, oh, I don't want to change from 60 to 45 minutes because such will complain. And you're like, yeah, they might, but will you take some complaining for 33% more revenue potentially? And if that's the difference between you like barely breaking even and making a decent profit, like it's a worthwhile change. And those people will either get over it or leave, and then new people coming on board, that's all they'll ever know. So the change doesn't really, make much difference. And then simple things on like you said a friend doing like 4 and then moving to 6, like we push people on that, like, push it up in terms of capacity. Sometimes that means changing simple things like you can't coach Olympic lifts in your sessions anymore because you can't do that with 8 people or 12 people in a session or whatever, but it's just smart programming. It's like what is more important at a certain point? Is it the absolute perfect strength and conditioning programming, or is it having a business that's like viable and scalable and works for you, your family, the team, everything like that as well? And like, is anyone going to miss doing, double unders if it's CrossFit, or doing Olympic lifts or whatever it is kind of thing? Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's like I've got a different friend who runs a facility business, and I think he's got about 5 or 6 businesses. Sorry, 5 or 6 locations. I was talking to someone else recently who was mentioning this guy and saying, yeah, oh, his programming's so basic and like he hardly does any free weight stuff with his clients. I'm like, yeah, but his people are getting results. You know, business wise, he's dominating the local area. So what if he doesn't teach people how to barbell back squat? It's like, yeah, if you're advertising that you're the best powerlifting coach, you're not teaching barbell back squat, probably something wrong there. But if your target market is sort of corporate professionals 50 plus, I don't really care if you're getting people doing, you know, dumbbell curls and lateral raises, as long as you're getting them results. It's like he's doing it smartly because people come in and go, oh, this stuff's simple, I can do it. He's building a business while you're, you know, ranting away about how he's not doing everything perfectly and, you know, teaching complex lifts.
Because it's like, does, you know, Dave from finance need an undulating percentage scheme? Like, he doesn't really in the most case. And most gyms that do small group personal training, your clients are general population people. And like, they're people with kids, they're people with busy lives, they're people, in some cases, are just training so they can eat a little bit of shit at the weekend and not gain 10 pounds every year, stuff like that. There's a lot of clients like that. So there's finding a balance between like your optimal programming and then what works logistically in the gym so you can actually generate a decent amount of revenue, and then what people enjoy so they keep coming. And like sometimes, and it's understandable because most gym owners are coaches at heart, but you start too far towards the end of the continuum on like perfect periodized programming, and it doesn't really need to be that. You need to find like the middle ground that covers all those areas. Yes, it needs to work and get results, but working and get results for 90% of people is showing up 3 times a week and doing compound lifts and tracking your calories. For the most part. So it doesn't need to get too complicated from that. And that's speaking from my experience of overcomplicating it for years kind of thing. And now we keep it very, very simple. So
yeah, makes a lot of sense. Taking a step back, in terms of your kind of business journey where you got started, have you always been entrepreneurial or did you start off a completely different path?
I've always been entrepreneurial, definitely. I had 2 like businesses in quotes when I was like 12, 13. The first one was selling magic tricks on eBay that I used to actually make them myself. So I was weirdly like a David Blaine, Darren Brown kind of fan. All of that kind of world like fascinated me when I was like 12, 13 years old. And so I used to make the street tricks that David Blaine used to do, package them up. It was like M. Waywell Magic Creations or something like that, and sell those on eBay. And then I had a different one. I say businesses, these are just like little side hustle things when I was a kid. But after England won the Rugby World Cup, I scanned a £10 note and put Johnny Wilkinson's face on it instead of the Queen, and like the England rose over it and stuff like that. And then I think it was the team was listed on the back. I've actually still got some of these, and then printed them out in colour, did ones with Martin Johnson on him holding the World Cup up, and then went to the local rugby club and had them put them for sale behind the bar. And I used to just go in every Saturday and collect the cash from the little jug or tin or wherever that they had. So I was selling them for like £2.50. It was a novelty £10 note. So I think I've always been like entrepreneurial, I would say. And just like weirdly obsessive about things, because even playing rugby, like when I was a kid, I got into rugby. Well, I've always played rugby, but then got into it seriously like 12, 13, 14 years old. And I used to tape all the rugby games, and I made my own like assessment sheet for the player who played in my position, fly half. So it was Johnny Wilkinson at the time, and I used to watch his games and mark like how many times he kicked the ball into touch, how many times he passed, how many times, like, or tackles made, tackles missed, all stuff like that. So I've always just been like on my own path with those kind of things, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting because I didn't have that at all from a young age. But then speaking to other people, so the partner in one of my businesses, Jamie, he was saying about how his first thing was he used to go to Macro with his parents at the weekend, buy huge boxes of sweets, and then would bag them up and sell them at a profit at school. And it's stuff like that. I think, I was never kind of that way inclined, but it's always interesting seeing how some people, maybe it's not your brain has always worked like that, but it's more like had the courage just to have a go at stuff, I think. So have you ever sort of had a quote unquote proper job, or has it always been doing your own thing?
Pretty much just doing my own thing. I played rugby professionally for a couple of years and then semi-professionally. So when I was playing semi-professional. I had a couple of jobs alongside that. One of them was in an embroidery factory in Preston. So that was like 5 a.m. starts. But I was living in Liverpool, so traveling from Liverpool to Preston. I only lasted a few weeks there because I got frustrated with the boss. So I was trying to revamp how we did things, which was really not my place to do at all at that point. And then ended up stopping going in. And then the only other job I really had after that was at the college that I used to go to. I was like a lecturer for a short period of time. I've been playing rugby in Hong Kong, came back, didn't have a rugby club yet, or a job or anything like that. This was before I'd opened the gym and everything, obviously, and worked as a lecturer there and just hated that as well, to be completely honest. I don't like being told what to do or being on somebody else's schedule. That's like one of my real like things that I just cannot handle. If I have to be somewhere for somebody at a set time, like I don't enjoy that at all. Even in my own businesses now, I try and like minimize that, where I don't really do calls. I don't really do a massive amount of meetings or anything like that. I try and make sure my time is very flexible on my own terms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're very much on the same page with that, because much like yourself, I've never really had a proper job outside of part-time work at college. I had it there, and I've always kind of described myself as I'm very well behaved and mild mannered, but I don't do well at following rules either, just because I kind of want to know why they're a rule. And that's been sort of a breaking point sometimes with client work. So I parted ways with my longest standing client ever. This is about sort of 18 months ago now, because all of a sudden it went from having a couple of calls a week, which is fine, to wanting daily meetings. I'm just like, it's your business, so you can ask that, but also why? Like, that doesn't suit my schedule. I'm not going to be, one of my things is I like to work from anywhere and do my work more or less as I please. And I'm happy to do quite a bit of work if it's required. But if I want to do it at 9 a.m., I'll do it at 9 a.m. If I want to do it at 3 in the morning, I'll do it at 3 in the morning. So you saying to me, we'd like you to be on a Zoom call every day at 3 p.m. I'm like, hold on a minute. That's not going to work. And I think for me, it's like, as you go through a business or career, at the start, you might have to do some stuff you don't really want to do. The further into it you get, I think the more you can call the shots. So I've got a lot of respect for that, in terms of, if you don't want to do something, basically, I'm not going to do it unless there's a really good reason to.
Yeah, that's it. I think like even with the only things that's on my schedule every week are, I have 2 meetings for the Gymownr business. And we do that, and that's an internal meeting just for checking numbers, seeing where we're up to in terms of like sales, any like internal operational issues with clients, and just general updates. And like, they're 15 to 30 minute meetings tops, unless there's a massive problem happening. So that's really just like a useful keeping a finger on the pulse kind of thing. And even those, sometimes I'm like, oh, fucking, I've got this meeting at 9:30 today, like I need to go do it. And I'm trying to think of the right word, but like, I don't like that sometimes on my schedule, but I know it's important for me to do. And the same with the gym. Like, I have one meeting on a Monday at 12, and I drive over from where I live into Liverpool for that. And like, some days I really begrudge having to do that, even though it's a 30 to 60 minute meeting kind of thing, and it's some of the important things to do. But I just try and keep that to a minimum. I think that's one of the beauties of having a business. And there's a weird like conflict a little bit with it, because in a lot of ways you want people who work for the business to have like these regimented things, but then also you want to have the freedom yourself. So it's like trying to find a balance there where you're not being like, you're not contradicting yourself. So try and give, the team on each business like some freedom within the company itself as much as possible. I was also making sure everything gets done. I guess that's one of the perks of being the boss in the end of the day. Once you got past a certain point, because obviously you go, as you'll know, you get things off the ground. It's 10, 12-hour days for months at a time. So you put a lot of work in on the front end, and you almost like earn that freedom later on.
But the way I see it, people are realising that actually most people don't want to be spending their days on calls. Yeah. So like, I started with a new client about 3 months ago now, and they don't sort of ask for any calls, basically. There's like nothing weekly on the calendar. And what they've done that's quite clever is that once a month now, they ask each department head to do like a 2 to 3 minute video. They splice that together, send it to the whole team. It's like 12 to 15 minutes to watch through. I've got zero issue doing that. And because it's kind of pre-planned, because it's recorded, it's not a meeting. Yeah. There's no idle chit chat. It's just, watch this when you get time this week. cool, gives you an overview of the company. But at the same time, they've said to me a couple of times, would you mind jumping on a call at this time? I'm like, no issue at all with that, because I know that from the ethos of the company, it's going to be that we'll chat and be friendly, but there's no fluff, there's no filler.
Yeah.
Like when we're done, and it's a call with a purpose as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, what are we trying to achieve? Okay, let's take that off. Everyone good? Cool, let's go away and do it. And you're like, that approach I've got no issue with, both with the companies I work with and with my own thing. Like the mentoring group I run, we only have a call once every other week, because we thought, do people really need a call every week?
Yeah.
Probably not. Some people might like it, but we're accessible from Slack in other times. We can always record Loom videos for people if needed. So I do think we're getting away from when it's this whole shift to like working from home culture, and people are like, oh, I'm working from home, which is great, but let's have 8 hours of Zoom meetings every day. I think businesses are moving on and going, yeah, people don't want that anymore. They don't need it. So let's actually, cut the shit and just let people get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. And we just try and keep everything as short as it needs to be. So, even if I've driven over to Liverpool for a meeting and it's done after 5 minutes, then it's done after 5 minutes. That's it. Like that's all that needed to happen. So we're not like dragging it on just for the sake of it. And I've definitely gone through that process before. I remember the first time I read the book Traction, which I think is a good book for like business organization. And we really like implemented a lot of that to the T. And there's a lot of like meeting structures going through it all and stuff like that. And it was useful, but also for us anyway, for the size company that we've got, it was cumbersome and felt like a little bit too much. We've over time just like trimmed that right down. And it's a very like essentialism kind of meeting where every, like this morning's one, for example, we had a meeting this morning, and by the time it finished on Slack, it was like, you've been in the huddle for 6 minutes. And that was like the whole update for this week kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then other days it might be 45 minutes if we've got a couple of problems with clients or a couple of issues happening or whatever it might be. So I'm a big fan of that approach for sure, because I don't want to waste my time. So I don't want to waste the team's time or have them wasting their own time either, if that makes sense.
Yep. Have you got any other big business principles, ethoses you try and stand by?
I think, I don't know if this is like, maybe not controversial, but I really believe that like anyone can build a decent sized, well-functioning business if they read enough and try hard. Like, I know you obviously have to have a reasonable level of intelligence and stuff like that, but I don't think, like me personally, that I'm like that much smarter than anybody. Not that I'm the greatest businessman on the planet or anything like that, but we do reasonably well. And I think I just read more than most people. I try harder, more consistently than most people as well. And like in the beginning, that was like trying hard consistently for long days, for years at a time. Now it's probably a little bit more in like shorter bursts and sprints on certain projects and stuff like that. As I've gotten a bit smarter about what I allocate time to and stuff. But I think a lot of people, friends and stuff like that, talk about business ideas they've got, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. And I'm like, if you are delivering like value for a company that you work for, as long as you got the risk tolerance for it, you can, I believe anyway, you can translate that into running your own company as well. I understand why some people don't. Like, I know, having the security of a salary and all that kind of stuff really, really works for some people's lives and stuff. I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur, but I think that everyone can be, especially these days.
Yeah, I genuinely think that consistency is a superpower, especially now, because so many people try something, it doesn't work first time, and they give up, and they either give up properly or they give up and try something else. Yeah. Whereas actually, your business needs to be a valid concept, but a lot of the time the people who succeed are the people who, in the most well-meaning way possible, they're not the most intelligent necessarily. I think people who are very academic often overthink their decisions. They have this idea of, they picture every single thing that could go wrong, whereas people who are maybe just a bit less self-aware don't often have that. They're like, well, I want to do this thing, so I'm going to try it and see how it goes. And it's just that ability to be able to come back from setbacks, I think, which actually, that's one of the biggest traits you can have. So I'm in agreement. I think, some people are absolutely better off having a job or, kind of living life more within what society says we should do. But if you've got a business idea, as long as there's something to it, I'm like, I think the same. Like, everyone's got, well, most people have got a phone that they can run a business from now. Yeah. There's no lack of information. If you want to find out something, you Google it, you use AI, you've got the answer. So what's stopping you? It's only yourself, essentially.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just like, for example, we started the Gymownr company during COVID. I think we really benefited off the back of probably a bank of goodwill that I had with gym owners just like in the industry. I didn't really realize that it was there necessarily, but when we started doing some in-person workshops, all people that I'd met before and had come to my gym and stuff like that came onto that workshop and then into the program and all that kind of stuff. And I think we got initially like a bit of a false sense of like how easy this would be. And we were like, benefited a lot from the goodwill, benefited probably a lot from COVID as well, with people just being like sat at home thinking I need to do something about my business. And we'd kind of just started this new shiny like program and all of that kind of thing. But then after that, you come back into the real world where like you're marketing to colder traffic, people who don't know you and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people might have got to that position where we were, where suddenly it's like, oh, this isn't going to be that easy, and would have just either given up on it or let it dwindle down to nothing or whatever. But we like really persisted with it, just learning the right things to improve and learn how to market that business, how to improve how we, service the clients and stuff like that, how to translate what we were doing in my own gym into other people's gyms. I think for us, like that's been even a 2-3 year like steady growth, and we haven't really changed a lot in terms of like the overarching structure of the business. We've just kept chipping away at like what's the biggest thing we can fix moving forward here, what's the biggest thing we can work on right now. That's why I was saying I think just like trying hard consistently and getting the right information, reading and stuff like that, and then just keeping like focused in the same direction makes a lot of success for a lot of people. I think the gyms that we see, like, that have struggled, or businesses I speak to that struggle, are the ones who are like constantly, I'm doing this month and then that month, and it's a different opportunity all the time, rather than being like, this is one thing that we're pretty good at, but there's a few obstacles, so let's like chip away at fixing those obstacles. And I think that same like mindset goes from starting something from scratch as well.
Yeah, and it is hard because I think everyone gets shiny object syndrome, and we always want to try different things. But I've gone around with different forms of marketing, put in a bit more effort into Instagram, spend a bit more on cold traffic, experimenting with LinkedIn at the moment. But for me, it's always been, what's that one thing? In my case, it's an email list. It's like sending an email every Tuesday, every Friday for probably 9 years now. You get to the stage whereby if ever shit hit the fan, you're like, oh God, I need to make 10k this week. You could just put out an offer that's like, hey, I've got this thing, here's some basic details, it's 10k. You probably get someone buy it. And I think people don't realize that it's all kind of the reps that have gone in beforehand. That's not to blow my own trumpet with an email list, but it's like, as you said, put an effort consistently on something. Okay, that's not in itself enough to build a £1 billion, $1 billion business, but is it enough to have a lifestyle business, or probably even more than that? Almost definitely.
Yeah, and I think like anything can work, but you can't make everything work at the same time. So like you might say focus on the email list. I agree with that. Other people might be better served just focusing on ads. Other people might be better served just focusing on outbound. But it's like pick something and get really good at that thing and utilize that, rather than like changing every month what you're trying to do. It's like we say, even with the gyms that we work with, it's like, is our way of running your small group training gym the best? It's like, I don't know, maybe I think it's pretty good. Like maybe it's not the best, maybe someone else knows how to do it better, but it's not the only way. Like there's definitely other ways to do it, but our way works. And if you buy into it and just like focus on it and do it, you'll have success with it. Just the same as if you did that with somebody else, or you took a different approach. Like an obvious one is like people talking about, do you go high ticket, low ticket, mid ticket and all of that? Or like, how do you focus on ads? Do you focus on referrals? It's like, just pick one and figure out how to do it well, because like everything kind of works. I mean, you can read, I don't know about you, but you subscribe to like a lot of different marketers, and you can literally get an email 1 minute that says you should absolutely do it this way, and then the next email from someone else who you feel's got a similar level of authority says the complete opposite thing. And you can see why people get confused. Be like, just pick something and stick to it. Like for Gymownr, how we've been getting clients for like the last 2 years is we run ads to a lead magnet, and we do outbound and email. That's literally it. And we've just done that That's the only thing we've done. We barely really do content, not very consistent with that, but everybody who opts in for like whatever lead magnet we're running ads to gets an outbound sales process where ultimately it's leading towards adding value and getting them onto a call and stuff like that. And then very consistent with email marketing as well. And like, again, we're not the biggest company in the world, but like we do pretty well, and we've just stuck to that one channel. Whereas you could be like, well, you know, we've dabbled with other stuff, but you could be like, well, I need to be doing 5 stories a day on Instagram. I need to be posting on LinkedIn. I need to be doing YouTube. I need all these different strategies. But we just spread ourselves too thin when we've got something that works pretty well. It's like, can we just focus on that and scale that up a little bit, if that makes sense?
Yeah, something you said as well that is interesting is the idea of admitting that you might not be right for everyone.
Yeah.
And I've definitely found that in terms of, to give an example, there's another copywriter who does something pretty similar to me with like mentoring and programs and stuff, but it's probably more brash, is more extroverted, kind of very much about like money and that kind of thing. And I know people who've come to one of my programs from his and said, your way works so much better for me because it's more aligned with me.
Yeah.
Similarly, I know people who've done my program, not done amazingly with it for whatever reason, like just doesn't vibe with some people, gone to his and got results. It's like, that's totally fine because, we probably just weren't the best fit in the world. Actually, now you've found someone who you vibe with more. And I think admitting that in your marketing is also, it creates a lot of trust with people because it's like, well, Rolex make amazing watches, but not everyone's going to absolutely love a Rolex.
Yeah,
it's like you've got to know who you're appealing to and also know who you're not appealing to.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I always hate and I understand why people do it, but the like absolutes that people use in marketing, like you have to do high ticket, or you have to do a challenge funnel, or you have to do this model or that model. It's like you have to actually just pick something that you think fits for you and is going to work, and then really, really commit to that. Because like I say, we've had, a lot of gyms, the majority of gyms that come to us succeed with it. We've had others that have come in and just been like, this isn't really like how I want to run my business. And we're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like you go figure it out, how you actually want to do it. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that because there's a million ways to succeed. It's just about picking, what vibes with you, as you say, because a lot of people these days will talk about like personal branding and stuff like that. If you want to build a gym based around personal branding, we're not the people to teach you how to do that because like we haven't done that ourselves. We've not succeeded with that. It's not a route that we want to go down. We're very like systems and process orientated and stuff like that. We'll help you put the infrastructure, put the processes in place and all of that. And if you want to work towards being the business owner who's not the face of the gym, who's not like front and center on Instagram and stuff like that every day, then we're probably like a really good fit for you. But if you want to be the, not to put a negative spin on it, but like the performing monkey on Instagram, doing lots of content non-stop and all of that, then that's not what we build our thing around, because that's not what I've done myself, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay.
You get pulled into it yourself as well, because like I'll see other people, business mentors, business programs, and you see how they're doing their marketing, and you're like, oh, should I do it more like that? But then it would be a real stretch or like bending the truth to actually try and like fit myself into that mold. Whereas like I'm personally I'm reasonably good at running paid ads, and I understand marketing data and stuff like that, so I can like map out like the financial modeling of client acquisition and stuff, and I'm comfortable spending X amount to get a client and know the LTV and all that kind of stuff. So like that's where my strength lies. That's where I feel comfortable and confident. I'm not as much so being like, right, today I'm going to show off my lifestyle, or have to jump on Instagram Live and Instagram stories every day and show you what I'm doing. Like that is one of the things that I would feel like I've got this obligation that I don't want to fulfill and would make me dread getting out of bed in the morning. But I don't dread getting out of bed in the morning to go and tinker around with Meta Ads Manager and make sure all the numbers are looking good, as nerdy as that sounds. But like that's what fits for me. So I'll, as much as possible, build the business around that, because like I said, I think everything can work.
Yep, I'm with you. Have you got any plans to scale out into other industries at all, or are you very much focused on the gym owners?
I think very much focused on the gym owners at the moment. I am interested in like the broader business side of things, and it's like that layer that you could go up, isn't it? And you start as a gym owner, and then you teach other gym owners how to do what you've done essentially, and then there's that cringy thing of like, well, now you've built an online service business, so there's always that as a thought, because I find myself more thinking about how that business runs and not as much about how the gyms run, if that makes sense, because I'm very in the weeds of like building that company, and a lot of the assets and systems and everything that we have for the gyms have been similar for a while, because it's stuff that's like worked. So I have like thoughts about doing that, but not right now, to be honest. I'm probably just gonna keep head down with the gym owner side of things. That's what I really do enjoy doing. We're really good at it with the clients that we have. So I'm just gonna stay focused on that, I think, for a long time.
Nice, I like
That's
it.
my plan.
So we'll go for the final 5 questions in a moment. But first of all, where can people find out more about you if they're interested in reaching out?
Yeah. So if you want to check out the Gymownr business, it's at Gymownr without the E on Instagram, which I regret. I think I just copied off, the company founder. I was like, oh, that's good. That's available. The .com was available and stuff like that. But now people search that, and other people who do a similar thing come up when you spell it correctly, and we don't, kind of thing. So I regret that. But you can find us there. And then I'm just Mike Waywell on Facebook and Instagram. I don't really post a lot of business content, but that's something I'm planning on changing this year. So.
Got it. So then first the final 5, and you may have already mentioned it, but what one business mindset, copywriting or strategy book would you recommend someone starting their journey, and why?
Yeah, so Traction's definitely one. I think that's a really good book that you can pull elements from for just getting organized with the business. But I think probably like starting a company, not necessarily the best one. I think that's when you've got into a position where the business is working, but it all feels very messy. It's good for getting yourself organized on that side. There's a really good book that I like called Wine Bar Theory. It's a really short book that just runs through starting a company all the way up to exiting the company. I feel like perhaps you need to know a bit about business. If you read it without really knowing much about business, you'd just be like, what is this short flip book kind of thing? But I like that one. And then a more in-depth one is The Road Less Stupid by a guy called Keith Cunningham. I find that book really, really useful. Just for it, you can almost just read individual chapters of that. It's more about different areas of the business, and then what he calls thinking time questions about the business overall. So you can kind of zoom out and strategize a little bit. So that'll be 3. I could go on forever. I love all Dan Kennedy's books as well, all the No BS. His books, there's one, No BS Management of People and Profits, is a really good book. Very brash tone, as you know, if you read Dan Kennedy's stuff.
Yeah.
But the underlying message of what he says, I think, is very useful, especially when you're early on in business. So you actually turn yourself into a business owner, not just a coach or an operator kind of thing.
He definitely cuts the chase. So I think that's something to to take from him. Question number 2, you and I are going for a coffee. I'm buying. What are you having?
Either double espresso, sparkling water, or flat white.
Perfect. Question number 3, you're in charge of the internet for the day, and you can get rid of any social media platform. Which one are you choosing?
I would say TikTok, but only just because it's the one that I don't use.
Yep, same. Question 4, you're hosting a dinner party, and you can invite any 3 people, living or dead. Who are you going to choose?
I would say Lance Armstrong, because I think he's a legend still, even after all the controversy. He's a very interesting man. I would say Darren Brown, probably. I think he's a very interesting guy. I always, like I mentioned before, when I was younger, I was very into that side of things. I actually listened to him on the Tim Ferriss podcast recently. I find him a very intriguing guy. And then, who was the last one? Probably Johnny Wilkinson.
Nice.
Childhood hero.
Yeah.
Won the World Cup. Definitely looked up to him massively at that time. I think he's then gone on to admit his obsessiveness probably fueled a lot of other people who looked up to him's obsessiveness. And I think I've definitely been a culprit of that.
Yeah, I've listened to him on quite a few
Yeah.
podcasts actually, and his mindset is fascinating. I realize this
Yeah.
is quick fire five, so I probably shouldn't be carrying. But yeah, I love his approach stuff as well. And interestingly, yeah, Lance Armstrong beat mine as well. So you're the first person who said a crossover with mine. So I'm very much on the same page about his accomplishments, and probably made a bit of a scapegoat for a lot of other people, in my opinion.
Definitely.
But
I actually have "Live Strong" tattooed on my back.
Oh, really?
In like, it was my first tattoo when I was like 18.
Nice.
But in Latin or something like that. It's like and you're just trying to come up with a reason for the first tattoo. I was like, yeah, this one will do it. Try to make it cool, but
yeah, definitely. No, really cool character, and someone who I've still got a lot of respect for, despite everything.
yeah. So.
And then last question: if there's someone who wants to be where you are and they're at the start of their journey, what would you recommend to them?
Probably just the general advice of like, just get going. Like, don't think about it too much. Like, you're better in motion than you are just planning forever. Like, get going, iterate along the way, read a lot, try hard, very consistently, and reach out to people who are ahead of you. I've been very fortunate, as I know a lot of people have, that, business owners who are further along in their journey than me have been open to helping me, whether it's paid or unpaid, and like distilling and passing on their lessons and stuff like that. So I think that's very useful in the beginning. I think you have to be a little bit more selective with that as you progress. But in the beginning, I think anybody who runs a company is doing better than you at that point. So like, advice that they can give you is going to send you down the right path a little bit. So
very sound advice. Well, appreciate that, Mike. Really grateful for you sharing your expertise. And if anyone's got any questions, just leave them down in the comments below. I'll post links to all of Mike's stuff in there as well. And then, as always, any likes, subscribe, shares, always appreciated. And I'll put links to my stuff there as well. Otherwise, I shall catch you on the next episode.